Hey everybody, Hobo4Craft, aka MrHobo here, bringing you guys a matchup that I don't do as often as I probably should. It's actually a Terran versus Terran, and we are going to have two really solid Terran players. It will be SelecT, the purple Korean on the bottom right, versus EGPuma, the red Korean, on the top left. Now, they are both Korean, but I think they're actually both residing in North America at this point. I'm almost positive that Puma's in the EG house. He did join EG recently, and when I say recently, I think it's within the past 2 months. I know it was shortly after he did take NASL the first season, pretty convincingly 3-0 over MC, which is really quite impressive, but that was the second time they met in the tournament. Very good series. Really showed his dominance over Protoss in that series. And SelecT is also from Korea, but I think he's been in the States for a while, at least since 2011 if I'm correct, and he is, if I'm not mistaken, still part of Team Dignitas. And SelecT is really well known for his drops against Zerg. He is very micro intensive. He won the Battle.net North American Invitational, and he did pretty well at BlizzCon. So, you know, he's a really good player. A lot of people don't know him as well as they should because he is such a good player. But yeah, he deserves a good amount of respect. He's one of my favorite Terrans, actually. Now, we see that Puma has not gone for a gas, while SelecT has. And a lot of times people will say whoever gets the gas first will have an advantage, obviously, because you can tech, you can do all sorts of things with that. But the other person who doesn't go gas normally is going to get an expansion out more quickly just because they obviously are getting more minerals. So it's kind of a fine line. Terran, like most mirror matchups, is just very delicate in everything you do. You have to manage your resources very correctly. Gas timings are so important in Terran vs. Terran especially, and engagements are so fine, and the room for error is so large. So, you know, I think this is just about one of my favorite matchups for that reason. Every player has to be on their toes the whole game, and if they slip up, it's you're really gonna notice it, because it does make a huge difference. But we are getting that command center down from Puma, like I suspected. Go for the barracks, and then you get, oh, he's getting the 2 gases at 19. Wants to be able to catch up in tech. That's a very smart idea. This is pretty standard build from both players. Getting a reactor here, so we could just see Starport come over here, and we could see drops from SelecT. He really does like drops in just about every matchup. He is so effective with drops in his TVZ. It's really amazing. If there are any Terran players out here watching this, definitely watch SelecT for effective drop play, and I cannot emphasize that enough. And he's pretty similar to MMA in that regard, in that both of them are very proactive with their drops. And Puma's actually scouting around with these Marines. Maybe he wanted to take that SCV out. Maybe I don't know where he's actually going with this. That's kind of interesting. And looks like this command center is just finished. And he is getting a starport, but he's not going to swap it here with this barracks. That's interesting. And SelecT still hasn't decided to go for a command center, so he's going to have to do damage, or else he'll just fall way far behind. Because when you're in this sort of situation, the longer you wait, you know, just without a second base like your opponent, the more damage you're going to have to do. Because if we look at the income right now, well, it's actually pretty even, but now we're going to have 2 mules coming down at a time for Puma, and he has double the SCV production. So in a second here, it's actually going to really start to favor Puma, though he has gotten his 2 gases more quickly. So the minerals are not going to be there quite yet for Puma, but once those all the mules production and just the SCV production comes into play, it's going to be a pretty big difference. And SelecT is actually going to be going SelecT, what are you doing? Does SelecT think that Puma is... Did he scout? Oh my gosh, he didn't know Puma wasn't even there. SelecT, what are you doing? How did he not know that? Oh, I think Puma earlier when he brought these 3 Marines over here was actually pretending that he was... Oh my gosh, that is so brilliant. But SelecT finally smartened up and he realized everything that just happened. And we're going to have a ladder situation going in here. It's very effective in Shakaru's Plateau because of the large expansion area. And all of these units are going to be lifted up. Puma has to be suspecting that this has to be coming. And we're going to get a couple of these SCVs roasted. And there is a good amount of units for both players. And it looks like we're going to have an engagement. So many of these SCVs are going down. They are tanking at the same time. But many of the Marines, 2 of the Hellions are down. And all of the Hellions from SelecT are gone. Puma lost... minimal units, did lose quite a bit of SCVs as we can see here. He's actually behind even with that expansion. And SelecT, as we can see, he's not going to lighten up. We do have the Viking out, so he has to unload everything. Try to do everything that he can with what he has left. And Puma finally cleans up that drop. So very well done by Puma. In the meantime, SelecT, of course, has gotten his expansion up. So now if we look at the income tab, he actually has come out on top. But it's hard to say because Puma did have his expansion for much longer. He has his 2 gases going. His tech is higher. He's getting a Raven out. You know, he just has more add-ons. And we're going to see maybe a more bio-heavy army from SelecT. He's going Tank Marine for right now. We should see Medevac as well. Yes, we do. And Puma might want to take air control. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be doing just that. This Raven's really good for that point defense drone. And once you have air control, you can have complete tank control. As we see, he's taking 2 more factories into his base. He's getting pre-igniter, so he definitely wants to do some damage with Hellions. And we actually have a Banshee that came out. It has 1 SCV so far. As well as just about 2 mules and a lot of mining time, that's for sure. Make that 3 SCVs, so he's doing a good amount of damage here. I don't think he has cloak, so this will just get cleaned up. 4 SCVs, 5, 6. Wow, that is a lot more than Puma really could have afforded to lose. Once again, he is behind, and SelecT is really looking quite good at this point. However, his Marine tank army is quite susceptible to the Blue Flame Hellion and tank army of Puma. So Puma might have the army composition advantage, but if SelecT can just be mobile throughout this whole game, and we have a little bit of a confrontation here, trying to keep watch with the Xel'Naga, and he will come out with no losses in Hellions, though he did roast down 4 Marines, so that is really great micro. A lot of players might lose a Hellion or 2, but Puma actually retained all of those, and now we can just repair those up, so very nice play right there. But like I was saying, Marine tank can be very susceptible to Blue Flame Hellion with tank that we are seeing Puma go for. He even has this reactor going to be pumping out a good amount of Hellions, so it's all going to come down to that micro. But when you go for bio, you really have to be proactive about dropping and keeping map control. If you're going to be that mobile, you have to really abuse your opponent for going very tank heavy. Now the thing about that is Hellion with tank is such a nice balance, because not only do you have the tanks which deal the heavy damage, you have Hellions which can tank damage because you don't want your tanks to die, obviously. They can take a lot of volleys. And they can also be mobile and punish your opponent in the same way that Marine tank can punish your opponent with drops and things of that sort. But we actually have a cloaked Banshee now. Puma is all over the place with his tech tree. And he has gotten 4 kills, make it 5. We have a Corporal Banshee on the loose, and he does not want to give up a scan. He might just get this missile turret up in time. That's what he needs to be able to see. And it looks like he will, but it's not going to be in range all the time. And this must be really annoying for SelecT. I don't think he expected this at all. Otherwise, he would have had those turrets up. In the meantime, a good amount of tanks being produced for Puma. It's getting pretty scary for SelecT. He's a little bit trapped inside of his base because of the harass technique from Puma, which is very smart because that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to keep his opponent in his base so he can build up. You know, this is more of a turtle kind of build in that you just want a ton of tanks. So if he can just, you know, defend like we see here, he has these Vikings just waiting for any type of drop. You know, he's playing pretty smart. He's making his opponent attack into him. And if you can imagine just all of these tanks just bombarding this army, it's really going to be hard for SelecT to do any sort of damage. What he needs to do is try to go for, oh, another expansion of his own, but it looks like we have 3 Hellions that snuck into the mineral line and line them up. They're just getting roasted down. Oh, we can see that differential right there. There is so many SCVs lost. That was really quite a big hit. See the EPM from the players, which is actually the APM. I think Blizzard kind of messed that up, but that is discussion for another time. SelecT, he's even supply capped. I don't know how that happened. How did he lose supply? I'm not sure. Might have killed one of his own supply depots, but we might have an engagement up here. SelecT has to be careful. He's walking right into all of these tanks. Oh, overshot himself just a little bit, and this Banshee, so key. It will be able to take out any tanks within the range of its own tank fire. It's just so safe. SelecT has to back out, doing the smart thing, scouting for a third, and the only way he can come back into this is to secure a third of his own and try to build up his production. But we're going to have another tank picked off. And this tank's definitely going to be picked off. I don't even know if SelecT has a scan. There it goes. He's going to throw one down. He's not even going to get the Banshee. This tank will fall. SelecT only has bio left against all these Hellions and tanks. It is simply not going to do. Point defense drones being utilized as well, and these Marauders will help clean up these Hellions a little bit. We have a siege tank. Puma's going to go right in for it. I think he is as confident as he should be. Puma has just about nothing. Finally, a Thor out on the field to help deal with these tanks, but Puma is now just going, you know, to secure his opponent outside of his base. He's just going to block him in. SelecT cannot move out, that's for sure. Finally, wising up a little bit. Going to get a Viking not only to be able to have vision, but to be able to take out that Banshee and that Raven. And we actually have a sensor tower. Sensor tower is so underused, but they're getting a little bit more used up. But we're actually going to have a huge drop. This Thor goes down almost instantly. It's a good last-ditch idea from SelecT, but it's not going to be enough. SelecT calls a good game, and Puma will take that game pretty convincingly. I think SelecT played very well, had a good strategy. You know, followed through with it well, had good harass throughout the game. But once you have to know your limits. Once your harasses stop becoming effective, you have to tech up and get good units, like Puma did. That's what he had his game plan throughout that whole time. He dealt with those harasses relatively well. And just because, you know, of his tech advantage, his build advantage, he was able to take the game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Hobo4Craft signing out.